Hello, my name is Gary Scudder, a teacher here in the Corps, ably assisted today by the excellent David Mills, who is filming his first Corps talk as we run our film enhancement program here in the Corps. Today I want to speak, I guess, more philosophically. Often I'm just doing little tricks of the trade, but today I guess I want to speak more philosophically about how one thinks about planning a course. And I guess sadly I've reached the point in my career when it's time to start doing stuff like this. It's as difficult as it is for me to get my brain around the fact I've now entered my fourth decade of university teaching, so I guess I do have a few tricks of the trade. So I was just thinking today about the notion of how one plans a class and how one uses the syllabus and the approach I take. So it's just a few random thoughts about how one plans a class. I always had a standing joke with the excellent Linda from upstairs that whenever I actually run off my syllabus, the class is essentially taught, and that we're now done. All the hard work is done. And, it's a joke, but on the one hand, it's a bad joke, but on one hand, it's also true. Because I'm a big believer in that if you've really thought about your class, if you've really put in the time, then I think the class will teach itself. So when I talk about planning a course, I do put a lot more time in this, and a lot more than I would ever admit to. Anyone who knows me will say that my general shtick is I'm coming into class every day with nothing, which of course nothing could be farther than the truth because I'm actually a maniac about planning. So my classes are kind of structured anarchy. And I think if you structure your class well enough, it gives you the ability to sort of run amok in the class and still get exactly where you need to go. So a couple random thoughts. One, I remember when I was in graduate school, taking, as we all do, when we first start teaching, we all end up doing really bad impersonations of our favorite professors. And there are a couple guys like Otis Mitchell and Ronald Pollitt that I copied, and they were sort of much more like me. They were great scholars, but they also had very big personalities, very electric in class. But I think the guy I learned the most from was this guy named Thomas Sackmeister, who to this day I still refer to as Dr. Sackmeister because I have such respect for him. If I met him in the hallway, I would say, "Hello, Dr. Sackmeister." He'd say, "Call me Tom." I go, "Thank you, Dr. Sackmeister." And he was about as far removed from me on a day-to-day basis you can imagine. A very quiet guy, very reserved, very subtle, dry sense of humor. But I remember when I was his teaching assistant, I felt I learned more about teaching than any time I'd ever had in my entire life. And what really struck me was about the absolute precision of how he did everything. What images to show in class. And he said back in the days when we actually would go, he'd send me to the library to get the little slides, which he put in a carousel long before PowerPoint. And how he thought so carefully about every one and when he would show it in class. And specifically what readings he would have them see and how much and when in the semester, and for that matter, when in the class section he would do it. So this is one of the things I always want to emphasize with folks. Back in the days when I used to staff and I used to be in charge of a bunch of faculty was really think about what you want to do in a very precise way. So plan in advance. For a person who has the reputation of being sort of, anarchic, I do believe in regards to a class you really have to plan this. So that's one. Two, as a reflection of this, I'm a big believer in handing out a complete finished copy of the syllabus on day one for a couple different reasons. One, I like handing out, I know we're not supposed to do this, but I like handing out a physical copy of the syllabus to every student. Now it's also on Canvas, okay? But I like giving a physical copy to the student because, okay, this is a contract. I have given you this. You have taken this. This is a contract between the two of us. So I think this is important. But more importantly, the reason why I like a complete syllabus on the first day is it means that it has required me to think about the class in its total. Not about the first 3 weeks of the class that I will somehow sort out later on, but I've thought about the entire class and what I want to do with it. A class is, in some sense, it's an evolving, organic being. It should lead somewhere. There should be a progression. David Kite, in one of his nicer moments, one time said that my classes were very elegantly designed, which I will take to my grave as one of the greatest compliments anyone ever paid me, but it's because a class should go somewhere. That if you set up your class in a certain way, it becomes impossible to not have some part of it because you are heading in a certain direction. So if my syllabus is done on day one, it means that I've thought about where the hell I want to go and how I intend to get there, including every reading, every film clip, everything I'm going to do for the entire semester. So that, I think, is a key thing. Having said that, the syllabus can also be an aid. It's not just it tells you what day, but for instance, one of the best things I think you could do with your syllabus is for every day, write 2 or 3 questions for that day. As in, so even if I don't get around to talking about this in class because we get distracted, you know what I expect you to have learned, because if you can answer these 2 or 3 broad philosophical questions, even if I haven't touched them, then you know what you have to, and you have no excuse for not knowing it, which then in turn gives me a lot more freedom to run and play in the fields of God if I don't have to worry about this. Okay, so the syllabus can be our friend. At the same time, the syllabus is not actually the Quran. It can be adapted on the fly. Simply because I say on this day I'm going to do this, it doesn't mean I can't also say, but I'm going to steal the first 10 minutes of the next class because this is too good of a discussion to let go. You cannot stamp down a really good discussion because of the tyranny of the syllabus. It is, in fact, in the end, nothing more than your assistant. So it can help you, it provides structure. It's far more than a calendar, but in the end, it is your tool. So if you have to sort of adjust it on the fly, fine. The final thing I want to say about planning is this. I have a lot more to say about planning, but that's more core talks. The other thing to say about planning is this. I think one of the things that we often do to our detriment is we over-plan a course. We overstuff it. And I am so remarkably guilty of this. So I'm speaking to you as a repentant sinner. I overstuff my classes all the time. I get in my own way. And one of the things I've learned over the years is the notion of simplifying to go deeper. If I put too much stuff in every class, then I'm going to get in my own way. And if I really want a deep, detailed philosophical discussion, I have to simplify the structure. I have to simplify what I'm looking for. Not a simple answer, but the structure has to be simple. And this will allow me to go. And the example I always use is, every class, you should say the magic rule of 3. I want to get at 3 things. How I get there, we'll just see how the hell we get there. But I'm going to get at those 3 things. I'm going to set up my class so the students will find those 3 things, which I think is much more valuable than me telling you 10 things. If I set it up so that in the readings, in the images I show you, the student, gets to those 3 things, 1, they are more likely to remember it, and 2, in the process of getting there, they've learned the process of thinking. Now, if you do this, this allows you to dig deeper. I'm also a big believer in the notion that teaching is a lot like improvisational jazz. To get there, you have to know a hell of a lot, but you also have to have the courage to let it go. And go like, okay, the conversation's heading this direction, let's just see. And then if I have a very simple notion that these are the 3 fundamental concepts I want to get to, and let go this notion of these are the 10 that I'm going to tell them, it means if the conversation goes in this direction, fine. I can let it go a little ways, and eventually I will take it right back to where I want. So anyway, just a few thoughts. I have many of them. I'll talk more. These are more than Mike Lang type core talks, the more philosophical ones. But just a few thoughts philosophically on how one plans a course. And if you have any questions, as always, I'm happy to talk. Thanks.